you can be bringing people into fear, or you can bring people into hope. You can be on camera with your lower self, worrying about what people think, or doing it for fame and fortune or whatever. I'm not against money, by the way. Or you can be doing it from a place of intention to serve the highest good, what's yours to do to help other people. And if you come in with that intention, then your marketing and the work you do online, there's no differentiation between that and praying or meditating or doing yoga or chanting or whatever your thing is. If you start to see it, that the work you do online is changing consciousness. Every piece of information you put out there has an intent, and it changes consciousness in the field. And so the more of us that go online with the higher intention to do good in the world, then we change the collective consciousness.
2, 1, 0.
This morning I felt like playing the song Let It Go from Frozen, and I was singing out loud in the kitchen, and my little one was like, Alexa, stop. I'm like, why? I love this song. I love singing it. So he allowed me and I sang it. One of the lines were like, be the good girl you always want to be, or had to be, or something like that. And that really resonated. Like I rebelled. I was a rebellion kid. But there is always this like part of me that wants to be a good girl and please and not to ruffle people's feathers. And sometimes I swing between the extreme where I'm like, I don't care about what anybody thinks. And then I really care about what everybody thinks of me. And I want everybody to be okay. And I want everybody to like me, blah, 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 blah. And I think this is one of the reasons why I'm not such a good marketer. Like I don't do much to promote the show, for example, which I really want to do. Because when you market to the market, you get out there in the market and you get people learning about your product. And I feel like this podcast with all the episodes and all the knowledge is a product, a free product that can change so many lives. Yet there is some kind of I don't know, maybe an internal obstacle that prevents me from doing it. So I brought the amazing Richard Taubinger. He's a phenomenal marketer, phenomenal. And what I really love about him is that he's such a white hat. He's such a kind person, and he does things right, and he does things with consciousness. My husband is a famous marketer in the SEO world renowned. I used to go to lots of marketing seminars with him, and some of the techniques I learned there felt how to put it nicely, a little bit kind of like sleazy, and it didn't resonate with me. And I just decided that I'm not a good marketer. Never want to market, and the reason is, yes, I wanted to be a good girl. And I didn't want to ruffle anyone's feathers, and I didn't like rejection, so I thought, okay, let's play small. And then Richard came along, and we had a conversation. We had a deep conversation about my problem with my mindset around marketing. He talked to me and he explained to me that when I market, and I knew it, but sometimes you have to hear things in a different way from different people in order for something to land, and it landed. That marketing is my tool to reach everyone, because my dream is to reach, I don't know, millions of people. I'm not there yet, but I will one day, because the content that I provide can change life. This podcast has 400 episodes of amazing, phenomenal interviews with people that help other people change lives. So I need to market. And we talked about the mindset of marketing, because he is a conscious marketer. Richard Taubinger is the founder of Peaceful.com and Conscious Marketer, an agency that works with high-profile authors therapists, and professionals. He has managed 250 plus launches for clients such as Sounds True, Eckhart Tolle, and Gabor Mate. His specialty is helping emerging creators overcome obstacles to building an online presence. And those words, marketer, touch your market, go to the market, exchange, like our whole economy and social connection is all built on markets, different markets, exchange of goods, exchange of emotions. So we shouldn't be shy of that. We shouldn't be shy of selling or giving or offering what we have and getting something in return. It's human nature. This is how we live our life. So maybe marketing can be um, a nice word, and maybe the mindset around marketing can be, wow, I'm gonna do all this in order to change the world. And if somebody doesn't want my emails, they can just unsubscribe. It's just as simple as that. We talked about marketing plans and social media platforms, the do and the don'ts. And Richard is amazing, and I felt like I can talk to him for hours and hours because he's got so much knowledge around this. But I hope that what you are going to learn today is going to help you with your endeavors, with your marketing, with your mindset, because you're worth it. Um, so here I am marketing to you and telling you that, come on, if you like this show, review it. 5 stars, please. You can review it on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever. Share it with friend. And also let me know. You can email me. You can find me at orionsmethod.com and use the contact form and just tell me what you think about the show. If you want to know more about the show or about working with me, go do that right now. Stop this podcast and go to orionsmethod.com and contact me. And anyways, enjoy the interview, and I love you very much. And without further ado, on to the show. Hi, Richard, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Before we begin, can you share with me a really fantastic childhood memory?
Oh, a fantastic childhood memory. You didn't prepare me for that one. That's interesting. Let's see. Well, I was raised in a military family, so I got to move around quite a bit. And I'm not sure why I'm thinking of this, but I lived in Germany for a while, and my dad was in the Air Force. And so I could ride my bike to the end of the flight line, and all the planes, all kinds of planes would come in, and they would literally, I would be on like my BMX bike with a bunch of other guys, and the planes would like land in there.
Wow.
I think living overseas and then moving around quite a bit, it helped me to kind of develop a spirit of adventure and different cultures, and just
Yes.
an appreciation for everybody, and also not being kind of fixed to one place.
That's amazing. How old were you?
I would have been fifth and sixth grade when I lived in Germany. So that
Mm.
was those are kind of like formative years where you're trying to figure things out. And then my dad was transferred to California, where I kind of spent junior high and high school,
Wow.
and college as well. So that I kind of went from there to California.
Yes. And how did you become a conscious marketer? And what is a conscious marketer?
Well, um, it's always like, how far do you rewind the story? It's kind of funny because I just read something called it's called a minimal viable backstory, and the concept is, if you want to tell just enough. This is I'm teaching a little bit of marketing here, so if you're going to do a video or something, you want to tell just enough context. But the example, I think her name is Wes Koa. You can look it up, minimal viable backstory. But she says, start right before you get eaten by the bear. So you don't tell like the planning of the trip or the car ride, right? It's right when you're about to see the bear and you get eaten. That's where you start the story. So I'm not exactly sure where I just about get eaten by the bear, but when I graduated from school, I had 3 sales jobs, and I really hated sales. And I had a massive fear of rejection. And I had concentrations in marketing and finance out of undergraduate school. I did a business undergrad and grad later. But I liked marketing, but all the jobs that were available were sales. And there's more backstory there that I don't need to share. But I ran from that because the last thing I wanted to do was be a salesperson. I thought it was like kind of slimy, and I didn't want to sell insurance or computers, or the medical field. That was the other job that was on offer, and I hated hospitals. So I did finance. I did finance for almost 12 years, but I still always loved entrepreneurship and marketing. And I found myself inside companies and always thinking about how they could market themselves better. And I had a pivot. I did pretty well in that field. I managed my own portfolio and then worked for a hedge fund. And when I got out of that, I was like, what do I do? And I kind of went through this pivot, and I took a go between job at Stanford University. And I had just come from a job that everybody wanted, which was like a hedge fund manager. And I felt like I had escaped. And I remember looking at all the jobs that were on offer. And, Stanford graduate school has some of the best jobs in the market right in the middle of Silicon Valley, and also some of the best nonprofit jobs as well. And all of them, I wasn't attracted to any of them. I was like, I felt like a lost soul. But for many years, I had been doing self-development work and meditation work and reading therapy books and, stuff that a trader really shouldn't do, or it's not like their main line. And I realized that I was really interested in inner transformation of people, and it was less like about a specific religion or about saving the rainforest. And it was more like, I felt like if you could undergo a deep inner transformation where you opened your heart and you just started to care for things and people, that you wouldn't have to force yourself to like recycle or like, do things that were good for people. You would just do it out of your good heart. And I realized that inner transformation is kind of step. And I realized that with my background, by that time I had a graduate degree from University of Chicago. I realized that helping a lot of the teachers that were helping others to do the inner transformation was something I really liked, and I liked marketing. So I kind of started to do that on the side. And I was a couple years in with a couple clients, 3 or 4, when somebody said, "How's your agency going?" And I was like, "What's an agency?" And I didn't even know I was running a marketing agency at the time. So it's the name conscious marketer came through, and I think really it could be conscious marketer, but also conscience marketer, where it's like marketing that has a conscience as well. It's conscious and has a conscious. So yeah.
Yeah, because from my experience in the marketing world, there are so many sharks and black hats, and they market in a sleazy way that I just don't like. And I think this is, I guess, let's talk about the mindset of marketing for somebody like me. And I'm sure when I say me, there's a lot of people in the audience that are pretty much the same, where like you don't like to be too salesy, you don't like to like push too much, and it also comes from like be a good girl, don't be a bad girl, don't ruffle anyone's feathers. How What mindset should somebody like me have to market, like, I don't do anything to market this podcast, I don't do much on my social media. What do you think I should change in my perception in order to do so?
Right. Well, first of all, I wouldn't tell you should do anything. I would just give you some different views, and then you can decide. I'm not trying to convince you that marketing is good or bad.
No, I know it's good. Okay, so logically, I know that it's great and I can like spread my message more and reach more people, blah, blah, blah. But there is some kind of a bizarre, like psychological block that prevents me to actually go out there, do everything that well, I don't want to, like Tony Robbins said, don't shoot all over yourself. I don't want to shoot all over myself, but there is a desire to be more out there and reach more people. And I have to take action, right? I can't just sit here and be like meditate on it. Maybe I can in tap into the quantum and jump into a new timeline where it just happened. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had been running the agency for a while, and we'd run a couple masterminds, and I remember a specific experience where I had a client, and I would say, we'd get on the call with her, and we'd say, okay, you're going to go do this and this, and the next week she'd come back, and either she wouldn't have done it or she would have done the exact opposite. Like it was almost like we were the hedge, and she was paying us a lot of money, and this went on for a few weeks, and then probably about a month, and then I finally caught on. I was like, can you, we set up kind of a 911 meeting, and where I'm like, kind of what's going on, and what I realized was that she thought we were the best of the worst, and so it was like, okay, I've hired you because you're the most acceptable, but she kind of had this belief that marketing was manipulation, and that marketing was beneath her, and that if she could do it over, she, if possible, she wouldn't want anything to do with it. It was totally beneath her. And this was a huge insight because with that client, we gave most of her money back, and it just wasn't a good client, because if somebody's not going to listen to you and doesn't trust you, that's a problem. Not a good deal, but really, yeah. The underlying issue was she thought marketing was just out to hurt and to convince people to do things against their will, and that's not what how we frame it.
I think for me, it's not like that marketing is beneath me. I think it's more of a fear of rejection or fear of being too much or in people's faces.
Yeah, we have a kind of a way to share different ways to use marketing, and we call it the five levels of marketing, and that could probably help you. And it's really about raising the stakes about what it means for you and the people that you could impact in your life, and then finding ways that are in alignment with your values. And the good news is, like in today's world, so much is transparent, so much is out there that people can kind of sense who you are. The other thing is, even with AI, people are like, AI is going to replace, but with you and I talking on video, you kind of get a sense of the person behind the voice, is this person real? Or are they not? What's their presence like? And just intuitively, we know if somebody's full of BS, or if they know what they're talking about, or if they're on some script. And you can just kind of tell. We just out of a presidential election where I think you saw different sides do different things, and regardless of who you were for or against, there was a transparency factor about, was the person transparent or not, and then people made their choice. So yeah, so the five ways that you can kind of reframe marketing so that it becomes more of something you love to do, because the thing is, if you hate to do something, it's going to be really difficult. But if you start to see that it's powerful, then you'll love it. The first thing is, if you have the best widget or the best service, or you can provide transformation and nobody knows about you, then it doesn't really matter. And this is we have a teaching called the 33 myths of marketing, which is all the blockages that people have.
Oh, you have a whole teaching. Wow.
Yeah. One of the 33 is there's actually quite a few more. It's like 44. It just, they keep adding on, but 33 main ones. But one of the myths is that a good product or service will sell itself. And what we find in today's market is that's actually not true. You have to kind of get in front of the brand a little bit. And so the first role of marketing is just to create awareness for the results you create. And the number one way you can do this is just by sharing case studies and how you transform people's lives. And there's nothing scammy about that. There's nothing like egotistical about that. And our lower self, and I'll get into this later, but our lower self wants to keep us safe. It wants to hide. It doesn't want rejection.
Right.
And so we think we're being humble, and we think we're being humble, but really what we're doing is we're hiding and we're playing it safe, and we're lacking the courage that it needs to do the things and to do the work that's required to serve in a bigger way.
Yeah. So I'm humble is a way to hide behind the fear.
It's one of the ways. Yeah. There's a lot of ways, but if you hear yourself saying, I want to be humble. I don't need to be in front of the brand. Or if you hear yourself saying, I'm just good with people referring me and all my business is referrals and that's how I get all my business. What it actually means is that you have probably hundreds, thousands, potentially millions of people you haven't reached because you haven't actually done the work required to really get the message out there.
Mm-hmm. Now that you said it, feels a little. I feel a little pain here. It's like,
I'm sorry. Yeah, so that's the first way. There's 5 different shifts. So one is just to see that awareness is important, and that's the first role of marketing. Is if just to let people know, like if they need help, that you're there and that you have a solution. It's awareness, and there's layers of awareness. That could be another podcast. And the second thing is teaching. Like a lot of the teachers that I have represented, whether it's a big spiritual author like Eckhart or Jack Kornfield or Caroline Myss, these are like kind of like big transformational teachers.
giants. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of times what they're doing is they're just sharing their teachings. And then sometimes they invite people to join the program, and other times they just share the teachings, and then that goes viral. And then there's a link, to sign up for the email list or something else of value. And so what we normally do is we think there's the marketing side here, and then there's the teaching side here. And there's like this wall. And as soon as we do the marketing, we have to become a different person. And then when somebody becomes a client, that's actually when the work begins. But the truth is you can start to transform people and create impact before they even become clients. And the work you do begins with the work you put online. And so rather than see it as marketing, just see it as an extension of what you're already doing, whatever that is, whether it's therapy or relationship coaching or fitness training, whatever. You can start to create change in people's lives. And the myth that's attached to that one, it's all intertwined. The myth attached to that one is if I give too much away, then nobody's going to buy. But really, if you give a lot of value and somebody makes a transformation in advance, they're going to trust you more, and then they're going to buy more. So that's not, we don't find that that's actually true. I mean, there's a certain percentage of people that won't buy, but you're not going to influence them anyway.
Yeah, back in the days where Facebook was more loose and you were able to reach more people, I think within like a few days, I reached. Um, Eventually, it was called Awaken Your Inner Goddess 7-Day Challenge, and it was a challenge for single women before Valentine's Day, the week before Valentine's Day, for them to do about 15 minutes each day of self love. And like there was a God meditation, there was sensual movement, there were a lot of different um, little tips, and every day they would get like a text and an email and a video, and without any like Facebook marketing or anything, just like posting on groups, I ended up having 1,200 women take that challenge from all over the world. It was amazing. I had women from Saudi Arabia.
You can still do that, by the way. It still works. I mean, it's a little bit, the game's a little more complicated, but you can still attract people on the different media channels and things like that. So
Yeah, so it was like I worked like crazy for a few days, like um like I was just like in conversations with people. It was almost like it was really exciting. We opened a Facebook group, and women had so many breakthroughs, and I got some great testimonials from that. But I didn't plan. I'm an Aries, so it's like a fire starter, and let's do things. And then, oh well, we started a party. Let's go have the, let's go just chill on the side. And I didn't monetize it. I'm sure this could have been like a potential to something amazing, because it's a lot of it's a big crowd for somebody who never done that before. And but there was no real, like there was a landing page that led to like a webinar, but like I didn't like sell anything at the end. It was just like a gathering. I didn't monetize it. I guess it um goes back to the same block that you said, where it's like, I want to hide. What if this is going to be too much? What if?
yeah. Well, I think probably you were doing a lot of things right, so I want to give you credit there. But a lot of times people go into challenges and they don't understand how to lead people to an invitation to a deeper level challenge. So often, if you have a challenge, you want to have the first 20% of the transformation, and then invite people into the rest of the 80%. And a lot of that even is just, especially with the type of community you serve, that people want community and they want to meet in person. And so there's things you probably could have done right after that, but you have to kind of embed that right before, as you design the challenge, you embed that in so that it's just natural and not scammy. Does that make sense? So you're not trying to force people at the end in. So yeah,
maybe I'll do it again. Why not? It was a good challenge.
Yeah, it sounds
I
good.
just have to figure out the end. Like, I need to figure out where I'm going instead of just like, oh, let's just run.
Yeah, it sounds like a strategy thing. I'm a Leo star sign, so I've worked with a lot of Aries, and once you know where to go, you just and you just get it done. So the main thing is to have a little bit of strategy so that you know where you're going, because you kind of.
What would you have done differently, for example, for that challenge?
Well, one of the premises on everything we do is work from the transformation backwards. So you might say, okay, what's the deepest transformation I can provide somebody? What's the paid program? Okay, how does the challenge lead into that? And how do we get people part of the way there? So most people think, okay, what do I want to sell at the end? I'm like,
actually sit and think about things.
Yeah, and I've made that mistake too, and it's not always so obvious. I remember getting a call from somebody who had done a quiz, and I had told them to do this. It was a big company, and I had told them to do this quiz, and I thought they were going to hire me to do it, and then they didn't hire me to do it, and it was super funny because a couple months later, I get this phone call. I don't know. I think I was on the beach or something in Southern California where I was living at the time, and the person's like, "I got a problem." And by then they had hired me as a consultant, but they were kind of doing some stuff on the side. And I'm like, what's the problem? I was like, we have a big problem. I was like, well, we did that quiz thing that you told us to do, and we opted in like 200,000 people in the last 3 weeks. And I was like,
Wow.
holy crap. I was like, what did you pay per opt-in? And this person was like 15 cents per opt-in at the time. And I was like, oh my God, like that's amazing. And I said, well, what's the problem? And he's like, we never decided what we were going to sell them. And so I have this list that I don't know what to do with.
Oh, that's not a big problem. That's a great problem to have.
Well, it kind of is. And the problem with challenges, you get kind of action takers that want to go.
Right.
And the problem with sometimes like with quizzes and summits is you get a lot of people who just want information and they never want to do anything.
Do you think the challenges should be paid, or or quizzes should be paid?
It depends on the situation. Some, if it's like we have a quiz, like a archetype quiz on our homepage, and I've worked with I work with a few typing systems where you pay $97 or $297 or whatever, like Myers-Briggs or process communication model or Genius test. There's like different tests. So sometimes it's paid. If it's just a general quiz, then normally those are free, but then people don't value them, and it's less good of an opt-in if they don't pay. So there's use cases for both. So it just depends.
Yeah, because I'm designing my new website, and it's gonna be amazing because my website is so old, and I already wrote a quiz, and it is actually an archetype quiz, but it's for women, and it's based on the Jungian archetypes, like the mother, the queen, the maiden, just to know which stage in life they are in and what are some action steps, and it's beautiful. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, typically those are free, but I mean, you could try to charge for it too.
Yeah, no, it's probably going to be free. But, they say when you pay attention. If you get people used to paying for things, they value things more. And that they expect that your programs are going to be paid programs and not, because when you start with the free things, and I did that mistake where I was just like, I just want to help the world and give everything I got and be spiritual and kind, and then you end up with people don't value you or your content as much, or they're just like, oh wow, that changed my life, thanks, bye.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this providing teaching and providing value is the second way that you can start to think through where it's less marketing and find some things you like to do. The third way to shift is to actually think of your marketing more as art and beauty. And this is
Mm.
it's kind of been a new one.
I like that. See, like that resonates for me. If somebody came to me years ago and say your marketing is art and beauty, I would be like,
Yeah, I mean, if you think of even like great ads that we love, or like great
hmm
products, like the beauty in certain products, or the I don't know, the exquisiteness of a spa service, or like a pampering, like if you think of how those things are marketed, or even something like Just Do It, or something a little more Aries based, right? Like there's art in it. And like when we build our campaigns out for spiritual teachers or authors, and we're not always in the spiritual niche. Sometimes we're in conscious business and other areas. We even had a hedge fund sometimes as a firm, but we're always like, how do we match the presentation so that it's something beautiful, so it's something that somebody goes, oh wow, that's like really well done. And
mm,
then we obsess over it. Like, what's the button color, what's the background, does the speed, is the page load fast, like there's a
yes.
lot, like online there's a lot of different factors in the art and the beauty, so that it's like frictionless, so like when somebody's going through it, and then how do people move through your experience, what's the experience look like as they move through there's a certain beauty when somebody does it really well. They're like, wow, I'm so glad I found this community, or this, I'm so glad I've found this quiz, it's changed my life, or whatever it is. It's like there's a certain beauty to that.
Well, you give me hope because I've been obsessing about my new design for a while now, and my website should have gone live a long time ago. But I like, I like aesthetics, and I like when something looks exactly as I want it to look. And maybe it's like me being perfectionist, but I like that because they say the devil is in the details. I don't love this expression. I think God is in the details.
Yeah, I think it's okay to obsess, and then there's a point where you, like, there's over obsession, you got to post. So yeah. And then the fourth thing that I say, and then the last two are actually my favorite in terms of shifting, but you know, if you start to look at what you do, not so much as marketing, but as medicine. And so like the people that
Mm,
you're reaching, have, you start to have empathy for them, and you start to see that they're having challenges in their different lives. I guess the traditional marketing
mm,
lingo is like people have pain points. Um, there was a teacher that you mentioned earlier that had a phrase in one of his emails that was like "twist the knife," which I thought was a terrible use of terms. I won't mention the teacher's name, but
mm.
like the
Yeah, maybe for me, for my very empathetic self, I like hearing stuff like twist a knife, talk to their pain points. It's like it feels so like
yeah, you don't want to hear that. But if it's medicine, if it's things that like help people out of like deep pain, and then one of my teachers, Thomas Hubel, says, "I feel you feeling me." So if your person feels that you feel that if they feel that you feel what they feel, then you have a
right,
connection. And you do that by sharing stories of transformation, and letting people know that you know what they're going through. And it's kind of like if you have a medicine cabinet that heals an illness, many of which are terminal, and whether it's we work with a lot of professionals in the therapy
mm,
field, and they're saving people from bad relationships, from suicide, from
wow.
PTSD, from traumas, like some of the deepest, worst things that you could even see. Sometimes it's family based, sometimes it's war based, sometimes it's a natural disaster, sometimes it's society
hmm
based. And so these are things where people, like, lives are on the line, basically. And so if you have that medicine, and you're,
What are you doing to me, Richard?
yeah, if you're so selfish that you're like, I'm worried about my small little ego, and I'm not going to get on YouTube because I'm
hmm
worried about a little rejection, you have to almost be okay with, like, you're not reaching those people that you have that medicine for. And it seems a little harsh, but also it's the reality that your work and the listeners' work here is likely to at some
Yes.
point save a life or two. For many of you, it might be many hundreds or thousands of lives. Or even if it's not save a life, it's help people get out of that ongoing suffering that they're living with every day in whatever area that you help, finance or fitness or relationships or spiritual areas, you know. And so it's a great obligation if you've been given the gift to help those people. And so then it's like some of the greatest marketers have been spiritual teachers, whether it's like Eckhart
Mm,
Tolle talking about the pain body, or Mother Teresa in the streets of Calcutta helping people that are
right.
really struggling and raising money for those people. You know, like these are, you can look all the way around and see that they had deep compassion for human spirit, and that's kind of what drove them. And they did whatever they needed to get their message and their teachings in front of people because they knew it was going to matter in their lives.
Yeah, it's beautiful. What's the last one?
The last one is my real favorite, and it's if you can start to see your marketing as a spiritual practice. And I think this is really powerful because if you think about what you,
Wow, I'm so happy we're having this conversation because I'm getting like aha moments. Like really just talking to you, I think like you're like this new reframe is phenomenal.
yeah, well, it helps you to shift your relationship with marketing forever, really.
Hmm.
But you know, if you think about what a spiritual practice is, you're wanting to channel more of your higher self or oversoul or whatever your word is, or the God self into you, and you're not trying to kill the ego, but you're trying to maybe manage it better and have those parts
Hmm.
that are trying to keep you safe and play defensive, the parts that are keeping your shadow hidden, or the inner child that's sabotaging everything. You know, like those are the parts that you're working with. So as you start to get online, the other part of a spiritual practice is you have to stabilize your nervous system. So if you have a dysregulated nervous system, it basically means you're in stress and anxiety because of coffee, lack of
Hmm.
sleep, traumas that you haven't looked at. Um, and then you're getting online and expecting, everything to go smooth. It's probably not going to go so well. So you have to do a lot of inner work. And so as you move your stuff online, it puts everything right up in front of you. It puts rejection in front of you. It puts courage in front of you. It puts, who am I to do this? Who am I to do this? It puts a lot of times people get overwhelmed with social media. It's because their nervous system's a little bit frazzled. Maybe they don't have a meditation practice, or sometimes a physical practice is just as good, whether it's running or whatever your thing is. So marketing as a spiritual practice is, if you can start to see it as, on one side, it's a spiritual practice for you. On the other, it's as you get online and help other people. I mean, that's kind of the gist of most, um, I don't know if religion's the right word, but the path to enlightenment and most religions is to figure out ways to help other people. So first you
Right.
help yourself, and then you help other people. Well, you help other people by getting whatever your God gift is in, and then instead of having your lower self and all these parts that probably aren't working too well together help you, you're bringing more of
Yeah.
your higher self and more love and compassion and connection and joy and confidence and conviction, and you're bringing more of that self with a big S in. And so when you get on camera, you can be bringing people into fear, or you can bring people into hope. You can be on camera with your lower self, worrying about what people think, or doing it for fame and fortune or whatever. I'm not against money, by the way. Or you can be doing it from a place of intention to serve the highest good, what's
Hmm.
yours to do to help other people. And if you come in with that intention, then your marketing and the work you do online, there's no differentiation between that and praying or
Mm.
meditating or doing yoga or chanting or whatever your thing is. If you start to see it, that the work you do online is changing consciousness. Every piece of information you put out there has an intent, and it changes consciousness in the field. And so the more of us that go online with the higher intention to do good in the world, then we change the collective
Hmm.
consciousness.
That's amazing. When I'm looking at the viral shorts, I don't see a lot of just like people straight up just talking spirituality. It's always like something needs to be really catchy and needs to be really fast for people to actually stop and see. And attention spam is getting shorter and shorter. Like if I did a video, I don't know, 6 years ago, and it was just a simple video, it would get a lot of attention. Where now a simple video is not good enough. You have to have a B-roll and bells and whistles, and I don't know. People start like holding, I don't know, a cleaning material just to get your attention. So, what's your tips for those videos in order for them to go viral? Uh, what what do we need to do? Because if I'm doing all that and I'm stepping up and I'm doing those videos, and then I get 3 likes, I'm like, why am I even doing it? It's not why bother?
Well, I mean, video marketing is a big subject. Probably could be another podcast, but what I would say is that there's definitely something about you know, going through a proper training if you're going to do YouTube or Instagram,
Mm.
or Facebook or TikTok or whatever it is.
Do you do those trainings? Which trainings do you do?
We have something called the Soul Syndicate. It's a monthly membership site, and we have a week that's just dedicated to video. And sometimes I teach it. Sometimes we bring in other experts because I'm pretty good at certain things, and other things it's changing so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say is that although one of the ideas is that shorts is the most important piece of content, I think the most important piece of content is your anchor content that are more 5 or 7 minute videos. They're the regular YouTube, and you can differentiate videos between expiring content and perennial content. And perennial content is a video that might stand the test of time. And YouTube's really great for that because if you know your market and you know the top questions in your market and you have a unique solution and a unique positioning, then you can produce videos around that topic that will live for many years. And often they won't catch on like a viral video, but then over time they'll drive your channel views, and you can get a video with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands even views. So I would say that the longer form content, I would say the bigger issue for most people is they just aren't consistent,
Mm.
And so if you post a video a week every week for the next 3 years, and you start to look at what people are looking for and how you can serve them, and you go in with the intent, and then it used to be that back in the day that keyword research was a little more difficult, and editing was difficult, and creating thumbnails is difficult. Now there are really best practices. I can go on Canvas and have a thumbnail now that matches any of the best creators out there, and you make it yours. But I can do that in like 10 minutes,
Right.
right? Even not as a graphic person. And so so I think you have to, kind of going back to the art, see it is if you have the best medicine, then, put your creativity and intention in there and look at the thumbnail as an art. Think through. I have a concept I call the second hook. So everybody's like, what's the hook of the video? And I'm always like, okay, you get somebody there, but then like, what's the hook in the first 30 seconds, the second hook that really makes people watch the whole video, And so you have to treat it you have to go in with an act of love to really go in. And Mr. Beast is the number one video creator on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And you can Google him, and on most of the interviews where he's teaching,
Isn't he a Mrs.? No.
I don't think so. No, I think he's still Mr. Beast. But if you watch an interview and the question is, well, how do you go viral? How he's like, his answer is always the same. He's like, I obsess over making great videos that people want. And so if you do that in your market, and then put a little research into like what a good thumbnail looks like and how to put a hook in, and then maybe your lighting is decent and your mic is decent, it's like you can play the game. And I think it's possible, especially I think the game is actually just beginning. I think YouTube's an amazing opportunity. If you can do it on YouTube, then there's an Instagram version, a Facebook version, and different markets serve different people. TikTok is a little bit younger audience, So, but there's a lot of potential for any brand, whether you're a professional or like a therapist, or whether you're a fitness person or a mom or whatever your thing is, or a spiritual person, um, the opportunities are still there. It's just whether you're willing to do the work and go all in. And if you think, okay, kind of coming back to marketing is manipulation, if you're like, oh my God, this is so much work and I hate marketing, da, 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 da. But if you start to see it as an extension of your teaching and artwork and your legacy, then it's not something you have to do. It's something you start to obsess over, and you're like, I'm going to create videos that help attract the perfect person. And then the money just comes as a byproduct, right? Because people want to work with you. They get who you are. They get your heart energy, or actually they get your soul energy at that
Yeah.
point, which is even stronger than the heart energy.
Wow. That's a beautiful way of looking at it. What would you say your genius is?
Well, I'm always trying to find a way to bring more soul into marketing. So I am, in some ways I'm like meditate, then market, and then go back to meditation, or pray, and then, or, so I didn't come in here with a script. I'm just here to find ways to serve your audience. And if I can help one or two of your people to kind of make peace with marketing, and I think part of that is if your deepest self is coming through with the values that you care about the most, and you're taking a stand for something that you care passionately about in the world, then your soul's going to be in the marketing. And then it just dissolves, and it's just you being you, then it's not marketing or business or sales. It's just you being you. And then it's just an extension of a higher level of consciousness that gets into the world. And so I don't know if that's my unique genius, but I would say that I'm a guide to help people to do that, to mainly to get a lot of the obstacles out of the way so that can just happen naturally. And then it's always up to the person to do the work. I can't do the work for you.
Yeah.
So.
Beautiful. What are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life?
Living a stellar life. Well, some of the first principles that I operate is just do what's in the highest good. And so I'm always asking, is it in highest good to take this client? Is it in highest good to do this now? Is it in highest good to invest in this or not? So I think I kind of think of it as a karma-free life where you're just operating in what's the highest good. The other is, operating from a place of your deepest truth. And truth is sometimes tricky, but a lot of times that's just about transparency. I can't tell you the number of people who have like an outward life and then they have an inward life. They have who they are, present themselves to everybody, and then they have a spiritual side. And so often there's these two lives. And so that,
yeah, I know some of those.
Yeah. So I work in the corporate world, but then I really am interested in this other thing, and I don't share it with anybody because I'm afraid of like what people will think of me. And so I think there's something about truth and transparency. The more you can, I think there are different arenas where you have to have different values. That's another discussion. But I think the more you can just be transparent and not and merge most of who you are. I think I'm a competitive person, and I like big challenges and stuff like that. I don't bring that into my relationship with my wife as an example, there are certain values that should stay in certain arenas. And so that's the caveat there. So that would be the second thing. And then, it's kind of a cliche, but I think it's kind of a combination of like, we mostly underestimate what we're capable of. And so think of all the things that you think are just out of your reach, and know that somebody that with less ability, less money, less resources is going to do it. And so you could probably do it too. And then normally the things that are kind of like that, when we go for them, they light us up because there's like an excitement, and there's like, it's like a 50-50 probability if we're going to make it happen. Like this month, my thing is I'm walking 1 million steps. And so it started out as like
million. Wow.
Yeah, I started out like, okay, that's 33,000 steps a day. As of today, I'm probably up to like 700,000 with 10 days left. So I'm going to definitely hit it, but I'll probably hit more like 1.5 million steps, And so like, so most people would go, you're just crazy. I was thinking of getting a hat that said, crazy mofo. You know, it's like you want to figure out
Hmm.
that thing that's a little on the edge. And some people aren't wired like,
I would get a hat that says 1 million steps.
yeah, so do the thing that's outside of your reach. And then some people are more wired for harmony and they don't operate that way. And so different people are going to have different ways to approach it. But the thing is to find the thing that motivates you. And what motivates me may not motivate you. So if you can identify whatever your unique motivation is, and a lot of times, like I said, it's just outside of what you think's possible. If you can find the motivation,
Hmm.
then you're excited to do it every day. Nobody has to force you to get on video or to force you to create the program or to, I don't know, find the sourcing in China to develop the product you want to develop, because you just, it's like the expression of your divine self. I believe we're here to create. We're these infinite creators. And so most people aren't tapping into that for a lot of different reasons. Again, that's another podcast. But so I would say just tap. This third thing is tap into that beyond the possible that's connected with the thing that brings you joy. You know,
Yeah.
Joseph Campbell's always like, find your joy or bliss, but he never explains how to do that. You know, and I think part of it is to
Right.
find, if you know you can do something or you've done something before, normally it's not your bliss. It's normally like write the book that you've never written and you're not a writer, or learn an instrument or learn a language or travel, or it's normally something. Sometimes it's just for you and sometimes it's to serve others, and I don't think there's a right or wrong, but it's important that you, or my belief is it's important for me to find those things, because if I'm doing those things every day, then I know I'm growing. I think Steve Jobs had that thing he'd look in the mirror, and if he thought of his day and he started to get regret or weak, if it was like more than one day, if it was like one day, he's like, okay, I got to get this financial stuff done. It's okay. But if it's like multiple days, he's like, okay, I've got to change some things in my life because I'm not
Mm.
living what I'm meant to be doing. I'm sure somebody could look that up, but he has like a whole thing on that. I think it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you kept saying, well, that's for another podcast and that's for another podcast. And I'm like, God, I don't want to listen. So anytime you want to come back, you are so welcome. You have so much knowledge and you're so kind and wise with your sharing. So I enjoy this very much.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to see you get back online with your own brand and get your own work on the world. It's probably time for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's time. It's time. Thank you so much. And thank you, listeners. Remember to do what is in the highest good, operate from your deepest truth. Remember that you can reach further than you think with your creation and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.